let's get it.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for joining this month's office hours for OneDrive. My name is Rachel Solomon Nambi, and I'm a product marketing manager on the OneDrive and SharePoint team. I'm tagging in here for Rob this week as he's out. I'm also here with my colleague, Stephen Rice, who's a principal product manager here at Microsoft. As always, this meeting will be recorded, so of course, let's keep driving our great interactions and engagement here as usual and keep it a respectful and fun environment for everyone. Now, today we have a great session planned for you, but first I'd like to share a few quick updates. Starting with our latest blog posts. At the Microsoft 365 Community Conference, we announced the next generation of sharing in Microsoft 365 with the new Hero link. This is a super exciting moment because this is not just a simple refreshed experience. We improved and updated the underlying sharing model, making it simpler, smarter, and secure by default. And we're excited to go deeper into this experience today on this call with you. We also have our latest episodes of the Sync Up podcast, where our hosts sit down with Olga Daleka to talk about the latest changes to the OneDrive mobile app on iPhone and Android. And lastly, we've got the recent blog on the latest updates and features available for PDFs in your OneDrive experience. So be sure to visit our tech community to read the latest news and content that we have for you. And you can directly go to that latest blog by using the AKA link on the screen. Now, for everything on the latest updates across both OneDrive and SharePoint, you can visit the two new blogs that cover all of the exciting features, enhancements, and announcements that are available and coming very soon to your experiences. In the SharePoint blog, we talk a little bit more about what's going on with SharePoint agents. You can check out this video about how Microsoft's own public affairs team is using SharePoint agents to equip spokespeople with customized talking points on specific issues, allowing them to take a fraction of the time that it took them before. You can also see details about some upcoming new features around agent governance, as well as the full public roadmap in that blog. Okay, getting into today's agenda, Stephen will take us through the roadmap updates and dive into our demo on the Hero Link sharing experience. We will then leave it open for Q&A at the end, so we're looking forward to a great discussion here. Over to you, Stephen.
Yeah, thanks, Rachel. All right, everyone. So we're going to start by looking at the OneDrive roadmap side of things. We're going to start with this kind of condensed view, which is looking at some of the big announcements from Microsoft 365 Community Conference that happened 2 weeks ago now, I think it is. So kind of two things to kind of call out and highlight here. First is the agents in OneDrive experience that we announced 2 weeks ago. This is the ability to create agents in the OneDrive experience, grounded in your personal knowledge, and then do all of the sorts of things you'd expect with agents, the ability to kind of ask questions, build knowledge bases, all of that kind of great content. And then we're going to continue expanding on a lot of those Copilot features, including features like Copilot commands in document libraries, in File Explorer, and Finder. Just a bunch of different ways to make sure you can kind of get access to that value, make sure it's working, and kind of derive knowledge and all the power from AI that we're seeing. The last kind of thing we talked about is the new transfer ownership experience, including a revamped email to make that experience a little bit more eye-catching for managers when folks leave the company. And then as well, a new experience to help people, your managers, move content to new locations after someone's left the company, including a bulk move and share option to try and kind of keep that collaboration going as folks go. I'll briefly flash the kind of broader roadmap. So this is everything we've been talking about that's coming either in the last 6 months, the next 3 months, or in the next 6 months. There's a whole bunch of amazing features that are coming this way. I'll leave this up for a moment if you want to screenshot it or just ask questions about it. And then we're going to go into our main topic. So I saw at least one person mention they kind of watched the video that I did with Vlad. So we're going to talk about the next generation of sharing in OneDrive and SharePoint. So this is the new sharing experience. I'm going to start off with some of the kind of motivation behind this work, what we're doing, why we're doing it. And then we're going to spend the bulk of the time actually in some live demos to kind of show you how it works and show you all the value. And someone can mute the extra person. Okay. So I like to start with this image. Hopefully all of you have seen it at this point. If you look at it, you may see two different things. Some of you will see a duck, some of you will see a rabbit. And I want you to kind of keep this in mind as I talk about the motivation for the new sharing experiences. Because when we look at it, we tend to see that there are actually two perspectives that people, when they give us feedback from sharing. And we've kind of roughly divided these into like advanced users and basic users. And what you'll notice is they're actually giving us very similar feedback, but each with that kind of unique tint and lens based on their framing. So from advanced users, the thing we hear about sharing today is that sharing is too much work to actually get right. There's a bunch of management involved. In order to get the permissions the way you want, you have to do a bunch of work to get there. And so the kind of overwhelming feedback is, hey, I have all the controls I need, but I can't control my files quite the way I want. I need that advanced capabilities, and I need it to be a little bit easier to use. On the basic user side, they have the flip side of that problem. They feel that there's way too much going on with sharing, so it makes it way more complex than it needs to be. And particularly, they tell us that when you have multiple sharing links, a people in org view link, a people in org edit link, et cetera, it makes it too hard for them to manage. And so that kind of landed us on our goals. For advanced users, the kind of way we've been framing is we want to lower the floor. We need to keep the high ceiling of capabilities that OneDrive and SharePoint offer when it comes to collaboration, but make it a little bit easier out of the box for them. For basic users, we need to make sure the experience is a little bit more familiar, a little bit less complex out of the gate. And when we do have complexity, when we do have all of that power, we want to make sure it's put into context so that they know when to use it, why it exists, and so on. So we really kind of have three generations of sharing. If you kind of look back at the history of OneDrive and SharePoint, the first generation is what we call direct permissions. I have a file, I add Carter to the file, Carter has access to the file, end of sharing. I'm all done. The second generation was sharing links. This was the ability to create a link that has a scope and a role, and you can forward it to people. I can forward that link to Carter. It's a people in my org link, and then he can send that on to other people. The third generation, which is what we're announcing today, or I guess we announced 2 weeks ago and are going to continue developing and talking about, is what we call hero links, which is taking all of the great stuff we did in Generation 1 and Generation 2 and solving a bunch of the pain points for it. So if there's one slide that I can summarize everything that we're doing, it is this one. This is what we call our simple, smart, and secure sharing model for M365. There are kind of three big pillars for it. The first is that every item gets a single hero link. So there's one link for you to manage that helps you control access to the file. It puts you in control. It gives you superpowers. If I can lean into the hero analogy for a moment. Number two, we want to make sure that you are fully in control of your content. Sharing begins with a lockdown kind of existing access type link, and then you get to decide how that file's permissions will evolve over time as it follows that kind of collaboration journey. This is always important, and it is only more so as Copilot and agentic experiences kind of become more and more common. And the last pillar is we want a single place where you can manage all of your access, understand who's using your files, and manage it together. So instead of showing you a bunch of videos, I'm actually going to swap to a bunch of live demos. And actually, Vishal, can I ask you to keep an eye on the chat because I'm not able to watch both. But if any questions pop up, feel free to tag me.
Yep, I will. Thank you, Stephen.
Okay. And just confirming for folks, can you see my screen right now? Thumbs up, yes. Thumbs down. I see a thumbs up. Awesome. Okay. So I'm going to throw out my one caveat in Sheet Anchor. This is all in a dev environment. We're still early in the process. So if you see any bugs or things like that, totally by design, and we'll definitely fix them all before you get your hands on this, but fair warning. So I have a file here on my left. This is my Relic Cloud eBike products catalog. I'm logged in as myself here. My name is Stephen, and I've got this file needs to go on a collaborative journey. I need to start working with folks. So the first thing I'm going to do is open up the share experience. And this is our brand new sharing experience for Hero Links. It's got a lot of features that are familiar and some new ones. So we'll walk through each of them one by one. But high level, we have an add people section where you can manage permissions for people on the file. We have a new integrated managed access section, which shows me all of the people who have access to the file, and I can edit and update them as needed. And then this file access settings here at the bottom, which is where the hero link lives. You notice that right now it's set to only people who have been added to the file can access it. Now, step one, I need to share with my colleague Nestor. So I'm going to head into the add people experience and choose Nestor. And you'll notice the dialog flips into a kind of more focused experience, help me really narrow in on writing the email, adding permissions. If I need to, we brought in this capability to choose whether or not to send an email notification. This is a feature we had in the legacy experience, we had in the grant access experience, and we wanted to up-level it into the new sharing experience as well. So this is perfect. You have, say, Nestor's a new colleague, might be, I need to share like 20 files with him. I don't want to send him 20 emails. I can now just permission him. I don't have to worry about sending that email notification. Super clear. Of course, we have our file summary feature with Copilot. So if I want to, I can generate a summary for the mail for the document. It includes it into the mail itself. So then I can get Nestor, started on the document. He doesn't have to necessarily read it to get going. In this case, summary looks perfect. I want to give Nestor edit permission. So I'm just going to click add. That is a new bug I have not seen. Let's close it and reopen it and see if it's better. There we go. I've added Nestor to the file. Now, first thing you'll notice, Nestor immediately shows up inside of the managed access experience. I can get confidence that the person I just shared with has access to the file. Another improvement you'll notice is this new external tag, which is there to help you catch and identify your external users inside of your documents. And another thing that we've added, which is really cool, is if your managed access list is starting to grow a little on the longer side, we've added new filter capabilities as well. So if I just want to look at, say, my external users, I can select that filter and it'll limit that list down so I can just review the external users, make sure they've got the right level of access, and so on. I can also, filter by permission if need be. In this case, I can see that Michaela and Ascend both have view permission. I actually need them both to have edit access to this file. So I can just select them both now because we've introduced this bulk updating feature. I'll select edit, update, and I'll remove my filter because now they obviously don't show up there. Oh, that's also a neat bug. Okay, but now I can see Michaela and Ascend also have edit permission. So I have updated them both, and I can kind of do those kind of bulk operations now, which I was not able to do before. Next up, I actually needed to share this file with Cassie, another collaborator. You'll notice, let's use the search feature, for example. Cassie does not have permission to this file. So I'm going to do a thing that we know many users do when they're not thinking or if they're working quickly. As I mentioned earlier, this file is set to only people who've been added to the file can access it. That does not include Cassie, but I'm going to copy it anyway. And if I come over to Cassie's session here and paste it in, as you would expect, Cassie gets an error that shows access denied. She's not a member of the file. She does not already have access, not allowed to access it. One thing I don't have in the demo environment, but I'm really excited for is the ability to, we'll be updating this page to kind of a more modern experience. So if you are tired of the old legacy access denied page, that is also going to be updated. But let's head back. I will show you the real power of Hero Links. So all I'm going to do is update this file to people in my organization. I'll click allow, and I can see now the file's access setting. Its Hero Link is now set to people in the organization can view. I'm not going to copy the link again. You can see my hands. I'm just going to refresh Cassie's session. And as you'll see, it updates and just works. So this is because there's a single URL to the file. There's one Hero Link, and then you can update the permissions on that link. The URL doesn't change, and it just works. And then, of course, we know not all users go through the share experience. So if I, as Cassie, say, come up here and copy the address bar and send this to a third colleague, Zoe, who also did not have access previously, it'll just work as well. The Hero Link is the link you get out of the share dialog. It's the link out of the address bar. It's the link in email. There's a single link, and it is all controlled in the share dialog. They'll complete this demo. If I close this and reopen, you'll notice I can now see who's using this link. So I can see that Zoe and Cassie are both using the Hero Link. And of course, a Hero Link can give access, and it can also be used to remove access. So if I change this link back to say only people added, I'll choose to restrict it. And then I'll refresh Cassie's session here. And of course, she loses access, keeping me in control of the content. So that is kind of the whirlwind tour of the new share experience. Vishal, I saw the chat flying by. Any questions or things I should run through?
Yeah, bulk adding of questions came up, copying and paste a list of users. Let's see, this came from, I just saw that.
Looks like it might be Joshua. Oh, bulk
Yes.
operations.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry. Let me show you that in a little bit slower. So for bulk operations today, if I wanted to update permissions, you would have to come through each individual user and change to can view. If I want to update ascend, change to view. The new capability we added is bulk updates, so I can select multiple people. And then once they're selected, I can change the permissions. In this case, I'm going to update them back to can edit. It'll let me know I'm doing it for multiple people. I'll click update. And now they've both been updated as well. All right. Jennifer, I see you've got a hand up.
Yeah. Okay. So this is obviously in OneDrive, but you're saying this will be applied to SharePoint as well?
Yeah.
So because we've been making a plan for getting rid of all of our organizational links. So you're saying all we have to do now is track them down once this is released and change the permissions on the link that's existing, or is this only point forward, like the old links?
Yeah.
How does that work?
You perfectly segued into the next part of the demo. So thank you. Almost like it was planned.
You're welcome.
It wasn't. So when the new experience rolls out, everyone will start from scratch with a hero link that is set to only people added to the file can access it. If you desire, you can change that default on a per site collection basis, which we'll talk about in a moment. But many people still have needs for kind of legacy link support or the older sharing links, or you may have links that already existed. So let me show you how that will work. As a user, you can create a new sharing link as well. So let's imagine I need to work with marketing vendors, let's say. I can give the link a name now. So this is helping put it in context. This is my link from marketing vendors for May 2025. I will make this an anyone link. I'll give it view access. I can set it to expire, say, in a week or so. And now I can create an additional link as well. And so this is a separate sharing link. It is not the hero link. It is less powerful. It's the same sharing links you know and love today. But it lets me now use this and manage this link individually. So I can send this link to my marketing partners. I can revoke it individually if needed. I can come in here and delete it and so on. And this is also the backwards compatibility story. So if you have any files that are shared today, they'll come up and show up here as these kind of additional sharing links. And then you can manage or delete them as needed if you want to just be using the hero link to control access to files. Yeah, Jennifer, go ahead.
So are there going to be PowerShell opportunities with this as well?
So I'll say it's a good question. I'm going to flip it back on you and ask, what type of PowerShell capabilities would you be looking for?
Well, because we'd be wanting, good question, because I would love to be able to pull all of these links, the ones we currently have corporately, and flip them all to a different, because in our situation, it's really about getting rid of the all corporate links. So if we could do that in bulk, that would be great and solve all of our Copilot issues.
Sure. Yeah. So nothing to share on that yet, but definitely great feedback that we hear.
Okay.
Okay. We're going to go to Joel next. I see folks asking questions in the chat as well. If you want to throw up a hand, that might be helpful, just so we can get them all queued. But yeah, Joel, go ahead.
Just to confirm I understand. So expiration still exists, but it's a separate link. The hero link itself can't have expiration on it. Is that right?
For now, yes. We definitely know that's also a feature folks are interested in, but for our initial release, expiration will be only on additional links.
Thank you.
Yeah. Next up is Joshua.
How does this work with the new planned transition when a person leaves?
Yeah,
with the hero link, because it seems to be tied to the UPN.
It'll still be tied to UPN. So when you move this file into a new site collection or a new OneDrive, the links will still break. That's also an effort we're looking at, but not something that'll be solved as part of this release.
Okay, and then are you able to copy and paste a list of users into that add people box, or is it one by one?
I believe it's one by one right now, but definitely a good feature request that we'll pass along to the team.
Thanks.
Yeah. Christopher. And if you're talking, Christopher, you're currently muted.
Yep, sorry, my mic up on my headset.
Yeah.
I remember before there was a bug around direct access where users were able to give access to a document, but if they did it in error, they weren't able to remove it again. I was wondering, does this new link circumvent it, or does it still exist?
Yeah, so that'll continue to work the way it does today, which is you can use, if members can share is enabled, you can use, a person with edit permission can add people to the file, but they cannot remove them. We do have some new capabilities. I don't think I have a screenshot, and it's not in the demo environment yet, and I don't think I have a screenshot of it in the deck either. Actually, let me see if I can find it real fast while we're talking. Which there. Let me find the correct slide for you. Here we go. So one of the other new features we are going to be building is this kind of per file members can share type setting. So you can restrict who's allowed to share the file to only file owners or people with full control. So that's one way to prevent the kind of scenario you were describing.
Definitely, yeah.
But the ability to allow people with edit permission to remove permissions isn't part of the plan.
Oh, okay, that's good to know that there's a method of avoiding it anyway. Cheers for that.
Yep. Yeah. Dom, I think you're up next.
Yeah, quick question about integration with information protection. One of the things we find a lot is folks get confused because purview information protection and OneDrive can have competing or inconsistent access. And I think it would be really great if OneDrive would be aware of the labels applied to something and then know, hey, wait a minute, you're trying to share this to someone who's out of scope of this label. And then maybe just throw like an alert or something, and vice versa, perhaps as well, because that is just going to cause a lot of confusion. Well, actually, it already does. So if that would, that would make things a lot simpler for people to understand. Wait a minute, I can't share it with this person because it's protected.
Yeah, we are actively working on that problem to make sure it's more clear when those cases pop up and give you a warning like, hey, the one we encounter often is a label that prevents external collaboration, but the share dialogue isn't aware of it.
Correct.
So that is actively in development right now.
Nice.
Yeah. So that'll come either as part of this release or soon after.
Cool. Thanks.
Cool. So that kind of concludes the demo portion. Rachel, you mind throwing the slides back up?
Yep.
Here, let me stop sharing, and then I think you can probably do it.
Yep.
There we go.
Thanks.
While you're doing that, Joshua, I saw your hand just came back up.
Yeah, will guest users who have edit access be able to share them?
So guest users who have added access can share today, and so they would still be able to. If you want to disable that, there's an admin setting that prevents guests from being able to reshare.
And I can't do that per file?
Not per file, no. You could use the broader controls, but I think today it's a tenant level setting.
Okay, and does this also mean unique permissions via direct access is going away?
No. So the add people experience I showed you is still using direct permissions and works the way it does today.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Okay, so as we look ahead a little bit, the usual kind of the way we're going to talk about this as we go forward, we want to make sure that all of you have the smoothest change management experience possible. Part of that is the videos we've been recording, office hours like this, where we can kind of talk through and answer questions. We'll have our kind of standard channel announcements as well as we get closer to release. Roadmap ID, which I think we have, I just don't remember what the number is off the top of my head. You can expect a message center post to go out about it as well as we get closer. We have our various blogs. So the link there is for the announcement blog where we walk through all of the new features and the new experience in depth. And then we're also looking at how we can kind of supercharge all of your change management as well. So we're looking at in-product tutorials, which I'll demo for you in a moment. And we're also looking at videos and Microsoft Learn updates geared towards both admins and end users, all of which is the goal is make sure you have the content you need, you understand the new model as it starts to roll out and before it rolls out, and you can manage change on your side. And then just kind of a quick example of what that might look like. I don't know if everyone else is seeing the weird white bar on the right side, but it's interesting. But this is kind of what we're looking at, a kind of an in-product tutorial experience. You can see how the new sharing experience works. It helps educate users about what it will look like. And then this is always available later on as well if a user wants to refresh their memory and the like. Let's see. I think so. That's the kind of end of our the new sharing experience demo for today. From here, let's spend a couple minutes if folks have more questions specifically about the sharing experience, and then once we conclude that, we'll open up for broader OneDrive questions. Vishal, I don't know if there's been any questions in the chat you wanted to surface.
I think you had already shared about this existing historical links. I'm going to move out and see if.
Let's see.
I think file move was also answered by Joshua.
Yeah, I see a question from Lauren. She was asking, can we remove the anyone access? Yes, you can. So you can disable anyone links at both the tenant level and at a site collection level. You can also do it dynamically based on label. If you need a pointer to those capabilities, definitely just reach out and tag me on Teams, and I'm happy to point you towards it. And Dom, I see you've got a hand up.
Sorry. So one of the other things I would like to ask is how is this going to carry through to mobile devices like smartphones, et cetera? So obviously the experience is going to be different screens, layouts, and all that. Can we expect all of this to carry through to mobile ASAP as well? Is that going to be parallel? What can we expect?
Yeah. So let's see if I can remember the number off the top of my head. So the current share experience is on mobile. It's on 64 plus different endpoints and applications. So we have a single unified sharing experience today. This experience will roll out to all of those endpoints as well. So if you share, say, a Word file from Word Mobile today, you'll see the same share experience that shows up in Word Web, that shows up in OneDrive Web. And when we roll out the new experience, that will also be true. There may be some, rollout delay where we hit different endpoints at slightly different times. But once rollout is complete, it'll be everywhere. One single experience. You don't have to worry about, divergent training or things like that.
Cool. Thanks.
Joshua, do you want to ask questions directly? I know you had a couple of them over there, and then we'll go to Martin.
I think I got most of mine done. The only other one I have was the access screen. On OneDrive, I guess you can look at the URL to see the email, who the owner is. I don't think you can do that on the SharePoint side.
Yeah, so the reason you're talking about when you request access for clarity? Yes. Okay, yeah. So that's by design today that we don't explicitly tell you who. That's to prevent folks from phishing during the access request experience where you hit a random URL and then try and determine who to go and talk to. What you can do is if you go through, let's see if I can remember where it exists. It's in the site collection settings. I want to say it's the site permissions advanced settings page, basically where you configure the access request settings. You can actually create a custom message. So like on my OneDrive, for example, internally, I have a message that shows up. It's like, hey, this is Stephen Rice's OneDrive. If you need access to a file, please reach out to this URL. So you can customize it that way if you want that information available, but otherwise it won't show up.
Okay.
All right. Martin, do you want to come off mute and ask a question?
Okay, sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I had a question about Teams owners. They are site collection admin in the site of the team. You can prevent that they can share files. You can do that for members. Is that something that's going to be changed?
No. So that owners or people with full control will always be able to share files within a given site collection. There are some features you can look at, like the restricted access control settings, which is a way to kind of lock down a site to a specific membership group. But generally, the controls we offer are allowing editors to reshare or not, but not owners. They always will be able to.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Jennifer, I think you're next.
I just wanted to report something that happened to us a couple of weeks ago that was really like perfect storm of awful. Not awful. We fixed it. But we had people who were using Teams. They made a channel. Then we had the three people there added the shortcut to their OneDrive and synced. And then one of them changed the name of the channel, moved files with too long of an extension, and broke the whole thing. So then they were getting the name of the old channel in their syncing. It wasn't syncing anymore. The remove shortcut was missing. and all this stuff. So I just wanted to report it because we worked around it. He went to the source location. He renamed the top level folder because what happened is they moved it. Well, you move it into channels, the path gets longer because they moved it from OneDrive. And so all of a sudden, boom, it was way too long. And in the meantime, he had renamed. So then everybody had a different name to the folder in the OneDrive and in the desktop. And we had to, I think I got everybody to remove the shortcut, but it didn't remove it from the file explorer. And then once he renamed it, like we finally were able to do it. But I just wanted to report that like kind of two things. The file path was too long, so it removed the remove shortcut link, and then renaming the channel wouldn't resolve itself, like something broke in the middle. So I just wanted to let you guys know because.
Let me raise the bat signal. Carter or Kayla, are you familiar with the issue? And then B, do you need anything else to bring it back to the rest of the team? Because I think that's in your wheelhouse.
I think we can try to repro it, given that was pretty detailed steps. And then if not, we can always touch base. But I think you give very, very good repro steps. So I think we can.
Perfect. Yeah, I think it's probably really duplicatable. So, but it was very interesting, and it wasn't great because it was their first experience with using SharePoint, and so it was like, there was a lot of convincing them that no, like this was, you shouldn't. Pretty much at the end of the day, I said, why are you using so many folders? So.
Yeah, cool. Well, thank you for reporting that, Jennifer. Yeah, we'll definitely take it back as well. All right, Richard, I see you've got a hand up.
Yes. How will this experience, this new experience affect the guest expiration process?
Yeah. So you're talking about the existing kind of per site collection guest access expiration feature?
Correct.
Yeah. So it won't affect it directly. So if a guest user has access to content, regardless of whether it's through the new model or through the existing model, they'll continue to expire the way they do today.
Thanks.
Yeah. Mikal or Michael?
Hello, everyone. I have a question because since last week, we noticed that the shortcut icon in our file explorer, in our users file explorer, started to change from the chain to the arrow pointing to the top right corner. And it wasn't communicated anywhere. And we're just wondering where this change is coming from.
Yeah.
Is it?
Kayla, are you familiar with that one by chance?
I can take this one.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, we started rolling this out. So you are right. The change wasn't communicated anywhere. This is purely an icon change, and we took it starting in actually the web a few months ago. And so we started communicating that like, oh, these are actual shortcuts. And in order to better communicate that, instead of using the links, we used the shortcut arrow that is pretty standard. And so now the change that you're seeing in File Explorer is sort of the last change and the last endpoint that we needed to be able to complete that holistic picture across web, across File Explorer, and across other OneDrive endpoints. And so that arrow is just an icon change. There's no other differences with that folder shortcut, but it's just a unifying message and sort of, we think a helpful communicator that it is a shortcut to the folder. But I'm curious to hear any feedback that you have with that change rollout and to hear any other things that you have.
I think that the change itself it's good. It's just like it would be better to communicate it because we need to update our own KB articles and so on, and it's always a pain, let's say, to do that. So it's always better to know before the change is happening.
Awesome. No, that's great to hear and great reminder. Thank you very much for bringing it up.
Thanks.
All right. Yeah, let's open it up to broader questions. So not just sharing. If folks have other questions, feel free to throw your hands up.
Yeah, Stephen, Alexander had a question as well in the chat. Alexander, you want to come off mute and ask your question? Alexander Solid.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, I had a question regarding a specific case that we're facing regularly right now. It's a case where we have some user which are leaving the company, so their account is fully deleted. And we have some cases where they're coming back after a few months or eventually some years. And with their existing UPN is recreated, but the user ID is quite different. So seen from OneDrive, that means that the previous sharing link obviously are not working anymore. But the point is that anyone trying to share or to exchange some document with this new account are not able to do from OneDrive, as it's kind of caching somewhere the existence of the previous account for the previous colleagues, which is coming back. So making OneDrive, there are some process, but it's necessary to delete kind of cache from every OneDrive working with this user, so which is quite painful and not working for all accurate case. But I don't know if you are aware about this case and you have some plan to remediate.
Let's see, Carter or Kayla, does that ring a bell for either of you?
Sorry, I missed the last part of the question since I was typing the chat. What was the final question?
Sorry, Alexander, do you mind repeating it?
My question was, is there anything planned for finding a solution to fix and not having to contact every single user that is working with this person to remediate this existing sharing link?
Oh, sorry. So this is when the person leaves the company, you mean?
Yeah, leave the company and come back.
Gotcha. Yeah, sorry. So we are making some improvements on the kind of transfer ownership scenario is how we think about that one. So when someone leaves the company, there's an email that gets sent to the manager that encourages them to help move files as needed, whatever it might be. We are improving the email experience so that it's a little bit more clear to the manager what needs to be done. And then we're improving the transfer experience itself. So you can now filter down to just the files in the former employees' OneDrive that are shared, and then you can move those to new locations as needed. And when you do, you can use the kind of move and reshare feature to let people know, like, hey, the file is moving to a new location, and here's the new link you can use to access it.
To quickly jump in there, and thanks, Stephen, for representing that. Matthew had a question about, I was hoping you could expand a little bit on the second part of your scenario, where the user leaves and then they come back, is what I'm understanding from your scenario, and then more happens with existing sharing links from the process. Hoping you could expand in that second half of the scenario. When the user comes back to the tenant X months later, do they come back with the same ID? Do they come back with a different ID? And then what is can you share a little more detail of what's happening with the sharing links?
Actually, UPN is not changed when it's coming back. Account was fully deleted, so a new Entra ID account is recreated, but so the user ID is quite different. But the email, the UPN is not changing. So seen from the sharing link, means some people can try to again access the same UPN, the same sharing link, but it will not work because it's not the same UID, so somewhere behind. And it's quite confusing seen from OneDrive perspective. So people trying to share some new document with this person which has came back, it's not working because it's kind of memory in their client, on OneDrive client, of the legacy UID,
Yeah, this gets into some of the weird, I see Louis mentioned this as well. There's some odd things that happen when user IDs and UPNs get changed. If you want to send me an email kind of describing again what you're seeing, Alexander, we can kind of connect you with the right folks and help you debug.
Okay, I will do. Thank you very much.
Perfect. All right, next up is Matthew.
Hello. Thank you for presenting this. Very good information, as always. I actually had a question. Very similar issue we ran into at our organization to what Jennifer was discussing earlier with adding shortcuts in OneDrive from SharePoint or Teams sites. So we're in the process of trying to migrate most of our department file shares like mapped drives over to Teams or SharePoint. And in this situation, we migrated our HR and our recruiting office over to a Microsoft team. And they decided that they were going to use the add the shortcut option to their OneDrive. And for whatever reason, they insist they have to have multiple folders on based off years, months, etc. It exceeded the character limit. Even with the Win32 long files path enabled, it broke. But what I did notice is it seems like if you removed the shortcut and used the option to sync instead of the add shortcut to OneDrive, it worked with the Win32 long file paths enabled. So I guess my question is should that experience be the same if you're syncing versus adding the shortcut? Or is that like a known bug?
Carter, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, unless Kayla, you have an update here, but my understanding is that they should be the same. So if one of them, specifically a sync, is working instead of folder shortcut, that's been sort of contra what we have been saying. Folder shortcut has actually the advantage here. And so that is a good bug if that is what you're seeing. And I would recommend just hitting me up on email, and I'll be able to add the right people and we can take a look into it. But the guidance has been that the folder shortcut should be able to jump that hurdle if sync hits it. But you're seeing the opposite. So I'd love to take a look. Thanks for bringing it up.
Yeah, that was my interpretation as well. And obviously, advantage there is the shortcut in OneDrive. They get a new PC. They don't have to resync, so on and so forth. But yeah, no, it failed, and it was mostly Word documents that they have for offer letters they generate when they're onboarding new employees, and then they convert those Word documents to PDF documents, and that's what they use as an offer letter, so to speak. And it was failing on those Word documents and those PDFs through the shortcut in OneDrive. I figured just give it a shot with one of them, removed it, had them sync the library, and sure enough, they were able to get in there and open everything, no issues. Really strange. And it happened, I probably did that for about 4 or 5 people, and it worked for all of them.
MaxPath, like those issues normally show up in the type of scenario you're calling out, right? Where there is a folder structure, a folder tree that is just so deep. And so that's where, so I will say that sync and shortcuts, they won't really matter if it's the actual root that you're syncing down. But if you're syncing the root of that team site or that shared library, if you're syncing the same exact root, it won't really matter between the two solutions. But the folder shortcut solution works better and normally obfuscates the problem if you're only looking at the 2025 data set. You don't have to sync all the rest of the data sets from 2024 and beyond. Whereas with sync, you would hit that issue. So that's where our guidance has been.
That was right. They wanted the whole library synced to File Explorer to kind of mimic what they had when they had a mapped drive, right? They mapped the root to the drive, and then, from there they can browse through their folder structure as needed. So they initially synced the entire folder structure, the root folder, as a shortcut in OneDrive. That is when they were getting the issues with the long file path being exceeded. We removed it and synced the entire root library using the sync feature, and it worked with the Win32 long file paths enabled.
Yep. Yeah, let's follow up.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you both. I think the next question is for Dom.
Yeah, I'll try to go real quick because I have actually 2 or 3 things. First, I'm not sure if I'm seeing a bug. We're a managed service provider, and we're moving all our Intune policies from the administrative templates to settings catalog to control OneDrive, which apparently is recommended. Now, it seems that the forced redirection doesn't work properly using the settings catalog. At least we're seeing on a number of tenants, when new devices are deployed, the known folder redirection is is on. Well, the policy says it's on, but OneDrive doesn't seem to be doing it. Is that a known issue, or is it just us?
Great question. Anyone familiar with that one by chance?
So it happens across multiple tenants. It's not just one. Yeah, and it seems to impact whenever we use the new settings catalog to do these settings. Okay.
Sorry for coming off mute here, but I've seen the same issue happen, and in our testing, I've noticed if the user is not a local administrator on their device, the known folder move does not work. If you make them a local administrator, kind of against security policy, but if you do it, the known folder move does work. Not sure why.
Okay. So in our case, the users are actually local admins. Don't ask why. It's just the way it is. So that's, but it seems to be the same outcome. Anyways, maybe we'll just open a support ticket for that. A lot of our users are requesting the ability to redirect video and download libraries as well, using SharePoint for Business or OneDrive for Business, sorry. So they're asking for the exact same known folder redirection capabilities that the consumer version has. It would seem to me to make sense because it's going to increase SharePoint consumption and OneDrive consumption, which should be good for Microsoft too, right? So if that could just be added, I think that would be fantastic. And also, a lot of times we have legacy apps that somehow just store stuff in strange places that is not part of the OneDrive library. And a lot of customers ask us, can we just add arbitrary paths or drives to the OneDrive sharing experience? Right now, it's limited to, what is it, your user profile and then somewhere in there, right? But is there a way we could just add, say, something on drive D, like a path or a folder there, and just add it? Done. Very simple. I'm done. That's all I need to ask.
Yeah. No, these are great feature asks. We have been tracking. You're not the first and probably not the last person to ask for these things. But yeah, we're tracking the request to add music and videos. There have actually been some requests for downloads as well to the known folder KFM set, and then also just other drives as well. So, yep.
Exactly. That'd be great. And considering that Clipchamp always puts all the videos you do into, I think, the videos like folder or library, it doesn't sync to your device, right? So after you've done your Clipchamp work, you have to either download, upload, and all that stuff. It'd be great if it just were like there, right? That's kind of the main motivator for the ask. But thanks.
Yep.
Thanks, everyone.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, great feedback. Thank you. I believe the next hand is Ryan.
Hello. Stephen, my question is about unlicensed OneDrive accounts and some of the information that Trent shared, I think, in the March office hours video. Trent gave the impression that OneDrive files are going to be archived no matter what, even if you don't fund an archive. And that seems to align with what is in the message in the 365 message center, that basically it's going to go to the archive no matter what. However, when you look at the Learn document, there's a bullet early on in the article that says that unlicensed accounts that are not covered by a retention policy or a legal hold will be moved automatically to the recycling bin. And I'm trying to determine which one of those two points is correct. The reason I'm interested is because I'm trying to determine what I need to do to reduce the potential size of my archive before I fund it. And so I'm trying to decide if Microsoft's going to take care of the problem for me if the OneDrive sites are not already on lit hold, or if I'm going to need to go and prune those OneDrive sites myself using PowerShell or something before I go and fund an archive. I feel like the three different sources of information seem to conflict a little bit.
Yeah, you are on luck. I believe we've got Trent here to answer that exact question.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. Hey, Ryan, thanks for the good question. And sorry for any confusion. I will go in and try to update those Learn documents to be a little more clear. But actually, everything you said is correct, and they're not mutually exclusive. And let me explain a little more about what that means. So when an account is unlicensed for 93 days or more, we are going to try to delete that account. Now, the majority of unlicensed accounts are already in the deleted state, right? The user has already left the company and they're being held for retention periods, retention policies, legal holds, etc. However, if the account is still active, and by that I mean there's still a user associated with that account in Enter ID, then we will go and start the deletion process of that account at the 93rd unlicensed day. We will put it in the recycle bin and honor any retention period, retention policies that may be there before we put it in the recycle bin. And at the same time we start that deletion process, it will be getting archived. So we will archive and start the deletion process at the same time. If there's only a retention period applied to your tenant and no policies or holds, then that account which would go through the default 30-day retention period and then be recycled and then put in the recycle bin, all while being in the archive state. Does that answer your question, Ryan?
I think so. So it's going to go into the archive no matter what.
Correct.
But if there's no lit hold or retention policy, then it's also going to fall back out of the archive on its own.
It won't fall out of the archive. It will it will start the delete process, and the delete process looks for things like lit hold and retention policies. So if there's no retention policy or lit hold or anything like that, on the 93rd day when it goes into archive, it will also be put in the recycle bin.
So it goes into the archive and the recycle bin at the same time.
Correct. Those states are not mutually exclusive.
And so ultimately, would I be paying for that OneDrive site if I funded the archive?
When it's in the recycle bin, it's not going to be billed because it's kind of on the way out. So we're not billing for the accounts in the recycle bin. But for the accounts that are on lit hold or retention policy or retention period, that you will be billed for them if you enable billing while they're archived.
And can I piggyback on that real fast? Please. If it is an active account but somehow unlicensed, we'll get billed for those as well. And when you say that it is in the recycle bin and the archive simultaneously, that's in the case where the default process is enabled and in process.
The case that it is in the recycle bin and archive is when the user is active in Enter ID and the account has not had a valid license for 93 days and there is no retention policies or retention period or anything keeping the account for longer, then yes, we will go and archive and delete. I do want to add a caveat.
According to the default procedure.
Precisely, yep.
Okay.
I do want to add a caveat that if you do enable billing, the default behavior for that scenario when the user is still active will be to archive only rather than archive and delete. I'll repeat that again. If you have enabled billing, we change the default behavior to not delete those accounts and instead only put them in archive. You are more than welcome to go and delete them if you'd like, but we got
that seems to
that
put a
creates some
spin
confusion
on what you like. I really appreciate getting this moment to ask this question, but like what you just said at the end kind of makes me scratch my head again.
Yeah.
My situation, I'm a hybrid customer and we don't delete our on-prem accounts. We just disable them. And so I have thousands of accounts in this boat. The account won't leave Entra anytime soon. It'll just stay in there as disabled and unlicensed. And so I'm very confused about how much I could potentially be paying if and when I fund an archive. So this doesn't have to go on and on this call, but maybe the Learn document could be refreshed or I feel like that part is confusing.
Yeah.
I would agree. That's exactly my situation as well. Thank you.
Got it. I'll go and update the Learn documentation. What I will say is that the manage unlicensed OneDrive accounts or manage OneDrive account lifecycle page that is on that documentation is up to date, and I will go and try to clarify this exact scenario. But I hear you saying that this can cause some confusion between enabling, disabling, billing, and the affecting the behavior of the scenario. So I'll try to clarify that.
And would you mind throwing something maybe in our chat or something for this meeting when that documentation is updated so we know when to check it?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and if for some reason the chat is unavailable, because I think it might close after some amount of time, Ryan and Lisa, feel free to reach out to me, and I'm happy to connect you with Trent as well.
What is the best way to do that and not like I did go through my account team, but I understand why Microsoft employees probably don't want people emailing them directly. So what is the best way to do that? Or are your email addresses posted somewhere? Apologize for not knowing.
On a rarer basis, you can reach out. Should be able to find us through Teams here.
Oh, okay. I don't want to abuse the privilege.
Yeah. This is a case where feel free to reach out. Worst case, we can at least say like, hey, documentation is updated. No, it's not. And if for some reason you're not getting an answer, definitely third Wednesday of every month is office hours, so you're welcome to come back and keep kind of nudging us there as well.
Got it. Okay, great. Thanks.
We're running a little short on time, but let's see if we can get at least one more comment. I believe you're next.
Yeah, hello. Thank you for the presentation. It's nice to meet you all virtually. I have a very quick question. It's about one of the OneDrive limitations that we're hitting often in the company, because we're trying to teach the end users to be responsible, especially the managers. And, when someone leaves the organization to copy or move their OneDrive data to another site. The problem is that one of the requirements is that when you copy data in a single operation, the total file size cannot be more than 100 gigabytes. But in our case, often we're talking about way more than that. And we end up using third-party tools to copy the data at the end. But also we're trying to teach the users to do this themselves so they don't have to contact IT for this. So I was wondering if you know about any changes coming about this. It's about the total file size when you're copying or moving files.
Is this copying or moving from within File Explorer through the kind of web copy move experience?
This is the web experience.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Let's see. I thought I saw Liz join. Liz, do you happen to know if that's a limitation on our side, or is that coming from the service side?
Okay, I think it's coming from the service side, and I don't have the information off the top of my head, but that's something that we can follow up on as well, because I do think there is probably something that's published. But yeah, I can take a follow up to look that up and get back to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
And if there's a limitation on the service side, we'll definitely pass the feedback along to that team so they're aware. Unfortunately, Rachel, if you want to advance to the next slide before everyone disappears. Yeah, so next month's office hours, we're going to be talking about add to OneDrive and shortcut enhancements. That'll be Kayla, who's been answering questions on the call. So definitely join if you've got interested in that topic, or if you have other questions that you want to talk through. The sign-up link is the same one you've hopefully been using, aka.ms/OneDrive office hours. And yeah, we'll try and capture as many questions and answer in the chat post this meeting as well. Once again, thank you all for joining, and we'll see you all next month. Really appreciate you taking the time with us today.